It really is lovely to see you all and for you to make the time for yourselves to be here this morning. I'm hoping that, as Emma says, you will be leaving with a few little tidbits that will just help you start to move past your imposter syndrome. So, let me talk a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this talk. I am lucky enough to have been a Small Business Saturday 100 a few years ago, and it's just such a lovely community to be part of. I'm also an F entrepreneur alumni as well, so hello to any of you who are that. It's great to be in such good company. I want to put this slide up because it's got some of my accolades on, which I'm very proud of, but also it makes me feel really uncomfortable whenever I put this slide up because my imposter syndrome is going, oh my God, get that down. People are going to catch you out and realize that you shouldn't really have any of those. Anyone else feel a little bit like that? I'd really like to know. So today, thank you, Kelly. Kelly is a yes. I'm in good company then. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what imposter syndrome is, how it shows up, why it's important to get beyond it, and then I'm going to give you 10 practical steps that you can take this week. So I want you to really think about what you will action as we talk through them. Now, I have created a little toolkit for you. Got my hand out here, that will capture some of what we're talking about. Just a heads up, it will sign you up to my newsletter. So you are absolutely at liberty to grab the download and unsubscribe. I will definitely not take it personally. But if you wanted to hang out with me a little bit and find out a bit more about what Quiet the Hive does, then that would be a delightful way to spend time with you. So I want to invite you to grab something that you can capture notes with. Because you might want to scribble down not necessarily the contents of the slides, because you'll get the replay, you've got the workbook if you want it, but things that come to mind as we go through any of the questions I pose. You might want to capture some thoughts for yourself. So you're really thinking about when imposter syndrome shows up for you and what those situations are. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important in a minute. Definitely there's an opportunity to use the chat. So if you are someone like me who does their thinking outside of your head, then please do use the chat. If you are someone who is more introverted and you like to take time to reflect and think things through, then there's something for you as well in that. And the workbook will help because it will remind you of what we talked through today. Come being brave. So I am guessing most of us are here in this conversation for the same reason, because perhaps we have a bit of an experience of imposter syndrome and we want to move beyond it. So be brave, share your experiences in the chat, reach out to others, connect with people who you recognize in the chat. Maybe there's someone who you hadn't realized maybe juggles this as well as you do. Okay, so let's start by asking you, what do you know about imposter syndrome? What comes to mind when you think about it? What are sort of two or three words that you associate with imposter syndrome or the inner critic? And if you're starting to think, oh my God, I can't type in that because I might get it wrong, ta-da, perfect example. And while you're doing that, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. So I am a coach, qualified coach for just over 10 years. And Quiet the Hive, it helps people to really live a holy cow, what a ride kind of a life, rather than, and I wish I'd been braver sort of life. So the reason I talk about this sort of stuff is because I think it's really important to make the most of our lives. If we choose to live a small and quiet life, that's absolutely fine. But if we make that choice out of fear because we're too scared to put ourselves out there a bit more, then that's where I really want to have a conversation with you and help you reach that holy cow, what a ride kind of a life. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for using the chat. These answers are coming in. So we've got I shouldn't be here, failing, hiding my successes, fear of being judged, lack of confidence for being found out, not good enough, it keeps me small, failure again. So that real sense of failing, of I don't deserve to be here, of I'm not good enough, of people are better than me, that's just been shared there in the chat. So there is a real sense of, for me, I think of it as that thing where someone's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, oh, Jane Galloway. No, 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 no. We meant to actually ask Jane Smith to come and talk on this topic. We've got the wrong person. So, really interesting to notice those words that come up for us. So, I want you to stick a yes in the chat if any of these sound familiar to you. So, do you ever speak to yourself unkindly? Do you blame yourself for things beyond your control? Do you avoid opportunities? Because actually, if you go for that opportunity, people might find out that you're not actually really that good. Do you ever put your accomplishments down to luck or think, oh, anyone could do that? Do you overwork to prove yourself? And do you feel like a fraud when someone refers to you as an expert? I had this recently. Someone introduced me as an expert in my topic, and immediately I thought, oh my God, no, I'm not. And actually, if you say that, people might think I am, and then I'll just completely get it all wrong. So there's lots of yes. Jackie, thank you. Jackie's put yes, 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 and yes. Have I got a secret camera? This is me. I'm glad. So, and I ticked every one of these. Okay. It's really important that you all take a moment to look in the chat. Just scroll up and see all of those yeses because you are not alone in this. And sometimes it feels like we are. And when you're a small business owner, whether you call yourself an entrepreneur, small business owner, founder, it feels even worse. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how that shows up for us in a moment. Okay, I want to share with you some other people who suffer from this. Now, we quite often put people on pedestals and we think they've got it made. I remember doing a presentation, sorry, about inner critic and imposter syndrome. And I noticed the chat was getting quite busy. And it turned out there were two women having a conversation in there about the fact one had managed the other. This was in a corporate setting. And the one who'd been managed by this woman was saying, what are you doing here? You're amazing. Why do you need to be in this session? And the other woman had said, because every day I feel like I'm winging it. That's not what people saw, but it's what she was holding internally. And that can be really quite crippling. So I wanted to share with you some of the people who also suffer from this, who we may put on pedestals. I mean, does anyone else think Michelle Obama should really be having second doubts about whether or not she should be taken seriously, for example? Sheryl Sandberg, who was the original lean in woman who told us we should all take a seat at the table, often feels like a fraud. Ariana Huffington, Tom Hanks, even Einstein called himself an involuntary swindler. I love this quote by JLo. So no matter what the evidence we have, sometimes we still suffer from this. So she'd sold 70 million albums and still felt like she was no good at what she did. Now, I am damn sure that that wasn't just her mother buying all those copies, right? There was definitely people out there who thought she was good at her stuff. And she had 70 million album sales to prove it. And I'm sure that's a lot more. And of course, we have to stick Richard Branson in there. In a room full of entrepreneurs, he still talks about how he feels that perhaps he shouldn't be here. And he's got that little voice going on in his head. These two quotes I love. Jodie Foster said that she always felt when she won her Oscar, that someone was going to knock on the door and say, oh, it wasn't meant for you. We meant to give it to Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep, of course, someone who's been put on a pedestal by other actors like Jodie Foster, says, why would anyone want to see me in a movie? I don't know how to act. Why am I doing this? So I hope that's really useful for you to understand that you are not alone in this. Now, if they feel too far away and a little bit untouchable, let's give my own example of this. So there is no quick fix. I wish that we could spend 50 minutes here together and you would go and go, nailed it, sorted, never going to be bothered by it again. But it will still be there. It will trip you up because I feel like imposter syndrome is a facet of the inner critic. And inner critic comes from the same place. It's thought to come from the amygdala, which is a very ancient and old part of our brain, sometimes called the lizard brain. And it's associated with that flight, fight, or freeze response. So that real quick instinctive response when we're under threat. That part of your brain can't tell the difference between all these people are staring at me because they're very interested in hearing what I've got to say, hopefully, or all these eyes are on me because it's a threat and they're about to eat me. Your brain, your ancient part of your brain can't interpret which one of those is. All it knows is that it's under threat. So it comes from the same part of your brain, which is why when you learn that your inner critic is simply doing the job of keeping you small and safe and hidden, I feel like your relationship can change a little bit with that. It's always part of you as well because it's part of your brain, because it's an instinctive response. It will always be there. So we can never completely get rid of it. And I think that imposter syndrome is part of that. So it will trip you up from time to time. But what you can do is learn to manage. So, whenever I give a talk around imposter syndrome or the inner critic, I want to share with you my latest experience. And I never have to think back more than a couple of weeks because this always, even though I talk about this for a living, it's one of the arms of the work that I do, it still trips me up. So, let's think about a recent example. Did anyone see Julie Begbie talk at the beginning of the tour? She was amazing. I sat there watching and thinking, this is really helpful. What amazing stuff. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I have to give a talk soon. And this is really scary because she was brilliant. And maybe I shouldn't be doing this talk. And maybe I should just pull out actually, because is there anything of value I can offer? Anyone else got that experience? Yeah. And there are experiences that you never forget as well. So Julie was great. You're right, Claudette. And there are experiences that you will never forget. So whenever I think about what would I be without this inner critic? What voice would I have in my head that would push me forward and support me rather than the one that keeps me small and stops me from taking risks? So many moons ago, I have a 24-year career in the NHS before I stepped away a few years ago. I've been running Quiet Hive since 2019, did it alongside like a lot of you. It started as a side hustle and grew into something big that now I do full time. But many, many moons ago, when I was first starting my career, I did a piece of research and it was all about deliberate self-harm and suicide. And it was an incredibly moving and interesting piece of work. And I drew it up into a research piece and we put it out from the health authority that I was working in at the time. And the press got hold of it and contacted us and said, we'd really like to have you on this radio show to talk about it. And my instinct was, no, don't do it, can't do it, not going to do it, because what if they trip me up? What if they ask a question I don't know the answer to? They were not out to trip me up. They didn't want to make me look stupid. They wanted people to understand and hear more about this research. And by the way, I did that research. I knew it inside and out. But I said no to that opportunity because I was too scared that I would make a fool of myself. So there we go. Some reasons why it's good to move past it because otherwise it stops you from going for opportunities, and some reasons why it still trips you up even when you get good at this stuff and learn to recognize it. So, just a bit of background so that we understand where imposter syndrome comes from and why it's so important that we understand it. So, it was actually a phrase coined by Clance and Imes in 1978, where they did a piece of research and found that this sense of feeling like an intellectual phony was particularly prevalent in a sample of high achieving women. So, that's where the phraseology comes from. It's thought to impact around 70% of people at any one time. So we are in good company, my friend. And why is it important? Well, because it's deeply embedded in research about the impact it can have. So it can lead to burnout, it can lead to anxiety, it can impact on our resilience, our ability to bounce back, our mental well-being. And also, and this I feel is really relevant for the situation that we're all in as business owners, is that it makes us less likely to take chances and to go for opportunities for fear of failure. Can anyone else think of an opportunity that they've turned down because they were really scared about doing it, even though inside they were going, I'd really love to do this, but I'm just too terrified? Okay, thank you, Kelly. I'd love for you to share in the chat, what does it look like for you? So, what does your imposter syndrome show up as? Yes, absolutely. Intellectual phony. You get that feeling sometimes despite being experienced and qualified. Of course. So Jenny says it shows up as procrastination. Yes, it does. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. procrastination and anxiety, paralysis. Yes, that sense of not wanting or being able to move forward, not showing up. Yeah, worried about failure, extreme nerves. Yeah, and you can feel it in your body sometimes as well, can't you? There's that sort of really nervous energy, sweaty palms, all of those things. We've got perfectionism in there as well. Inability to sell myself or my business. Helen, you are speaking my language. Anyone else find that the icky bit? Because actually, what if people actually buy things and then they don't like them? That's secretly the message I have going in through my head. Overwhelm, not progressing things, starting lots but not finishing them. Yeah, absolutely, Carrie Ann. Terrified of putting myself out there. So we are all sharing really vulnerable and emotional things here. And I'm sure that your friends would be going, but you're amazing. You're incredible. You shouldn't be feeling this way. You're really brilliant. But that's not the message we give ourselves sometimes. So anyone can experience imposter syndrome, but it tends to be in a higher prevalence in women and particularly in women of colour. As we've talked about, it's about saying that our success is down to luck rather than skill and merit, or we downplay ourselves. So we talk about a sense of, oh, that's not really important. It's just this little thing I did, or I'm just a coach, or when you're surrounded, when you're in a work environment where there are lots of people doing the same thing as you, there are billions of coaches out there. Why would people work with me? I'm just a coach. That sense of that feeling. And we downplay our accomplishments. Does anyone else do that? We just quickly move over the good things and we focus on the things that are less good. So, anyone else ever had the experience of completely kind of loving receiving but glossing over some of the incredible feedback you get, but as soon as someone writes to you and says, I didn't really enjoy this, or if you get an evaluation form and it's full of fives, yes, this was amazing, but one person puts a three, it's the three you fixate on, right? It's that sort of sense of I'm going to skim over the good and really focus on the bad. And we also overwork to overcompensate because we're so worried about getting caught out that we push ourselves further and further, which is where that burnout comes from, right? I also just want to mention this because there has been some conversation recently about how we shouldn't be talking about imposter syndrome. We shouldn't be using those words because actually, we are using it as a shorthand to get away from understanding systemic racism or sexism or homophobia or classism. And actually, it's a handy tool that we can use for othering. I think this is really important because it can absolutely be a symptom of external problems in an environment. So, if you're working in a team, for example, then it might be around the culture in that team rather than anything else. However, I think that it is important we talk about it because you can work with the most supportive people, with clients who think you're fabulous, who give you really great feedback, but still feel like you've got that sense of imposter syndrome. It's really deeply linked to that inner critic sense of, I am not, insert your adjective of choice, whether that's I am not young enough, I'm not qualified enough, I'm not experienced enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not fast enough, whatever it might be, it's really linked with that sense. And also, it's really important to understand that that skills gap that we feel, that thing of I don't know how to do this, sometimes that is actually real, and that's okay. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about why I think that this is so prevalent in people like us, people who run our own businesses, whether that's alongside a team or whether that's just on our own, like I do with Quiet the Hive. So we have that sense of isolation. Anyone else feel a little bit like this? Because we don't have any colleagues to check in with. We don't have a manager who says, You're doing great. What a great piece of work you're doing. We're kind of sitting on our own in our desks, at our desks, sorry, not in your desk. Don't sit in your desk. That would be really bad. We're sitting at our desks. We're doing this on our own quite a lot of time. And because we're doing this on our own, we give our inner critic free rein to tell us stuff. Isolated here. Yeah, absolutely, Helen. So there is that sense of we feel like we are on our own doing this. And when we're on our own, we're also figuring out a lot of stuff for ourselves. There's the comparison culture. Anyone else think that everyone else is nailing it on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever else, and they're doing rubbish? Me, completely, all the time. Yes, thank you. I'm not alone. There's lots of yeses coming in. And how many times I get lots of people coming up to me when I go to networking events, or they say to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so good on your socials. You're really good." And I'm thinking, I really don't feel like I am at all. So I'm looking at everyone else, and what you're doing when you do that is you're comparing your insides with their outsides. You're seeing the perfect manicured version, not the messy behind the scene. I mean, we do behind the scenes, right? But we tidy up first. Shall I give you an insight into behind the scenes? Ta-da! That's what I'm sharing my office with. This is why you're angled over this way, because I'm in a concrete block at the bottom of my garden. But I don't want to show you that. If I'm going behind the scenes, I'm showing you this bit. I'm showing you the awards and things. I am not showing you the lawnmower and the step ladder and the very big spiders that live over that side. We look at people's followers and we think, oh my God, she's got 10,000 followers and I've got 200. How am I ever going to make my way in this? But what we're not doing is looking to see how engaged those people are, what community we have, or even if we actually attract custom through socials. It may not be. I have a friend who recently discovered there's no point on her being on socials. She is an incredible photographer. No one comes to her through Instagram, and she was putting so much effort into it. It's all word of mouth for her. Fear of failure. Anyone really resonate with this one? This is a biggie. I live on my own. I don't at all, actually. I live with my children. Sorry. I meant I'm the only solo, I'm the adult in the house. I am responsible for paying the bills. If I don't earn money, my bills won't get paid. And that is terrifying. You set these sort of pressure on yourself. You know, there is this massive financial pressure. We know that businesses fail all the time, and we're surrounded by that sense. And I don't know about you, but this year's been really tough for me. And I've spoken to a lot of people who found it the same. It feels deeply personal. It's your business, it's your name on that business. You are that business. So it feels really personal. And every setback, every time we launch something that doesn't sell, every time we create something we think's brilliant and no one wants it, that feels like a deeply personal failure. And that's really interesting. So Kelly's just popped in the chat. I assume I'll fail, so I subconsciously hold myself back. Absolutely. Because why do we want to make ourselves look stupid? If we already know we're going to fail, then we won't do it. But the other thing is there really proof that you're going to fail? Or are we just holding ourselves back and not allowing ourselves those opportunities? Expectations and perfectionism. You mentioned it earlier, that perfectionism sense. We delay launching until everything's perfect. How many of you took ages to launch your business because you just needed to get the logo right, or you just needed to sort out your website first? We also have this sense that anyone else have a massive team of one. You become the IT guru, the social media manager, the chief financial officer, the CEO, the general dog's body. All of it is your role. But we're all learning how to do this, right? We're not taught how to do all of this stuff in school, or at least I certainly wasn't. So there's that sense of having to do all the things and not having a clue how to do it and needing to do it all perfectly. We're in a constant learning curve. And that constant learning curve means that we are struggling all the time with the things that we don't know how to do them. So, thank you for coming into the chat, because there is a lot of, I'm currently doing that, I'm doing that now, that relates, yeah, and do make the connections because they might be really helpful to move you forward. So, I'd love to know why you are here. What was it about the title of this or the description of this talk that brought you here? Why is it that you want to move past imposter syndrome? And you might want to write this down for yourself as well. The reason being, when you can remind yourself why it's so important to overcome this, when you're having a wobble, you can take a look and check in and remind yourself it's really important. Okay, so we've got some answers coming in because it's holding me back from growing. It's stopping me from being me. Absolutely. So there's that real sense of if I could just move past it, then this would happen. It's an opportunity to be the best of me. Yeah, I love that. They're all coming in now. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get some tips to move forward. Great, I'll definitely be sharing those. It's really holding me back from putting my all into my business. This is lovely. Claire, this is your strong why, okay? When we talk about this in a minute, this is really good. Because I really want, oh, I've lost it now, it moved. Hang on. I really want a successful business and to have the impact I want. Yeah. So hold on to your reason really closely because that's the thing that's going to move you forward. Some of the reasons that I feel that we should be moving past this is it stifles our growth. So you've talked about this, right? We turn down bigger clients because we're too scared, or we don't pitch for opportunities because they might say no. We're not going to know that they're going to say no unless we ask. My mum always said, if you don't ask, you don't get. I'm sure your mum's also taught you that as well. Sometimes it's a handy reminder. We undercharge. So many of us don't raise our prices or undercharge or give away masses of free stuff because we're too scared to ask for what we're worth, even though people will pay it. Anyone else had that experience of finally being brave and putting your prices up or asking for more and being given it without a second thought? It certainly happened to me. And we get that burnout. So we overwork to overprove ourselves. We say yes to everything, including the really crappy clients that we don't actually want to work with, but we're so grateful and scared that nothing else will happen that we say yes to them. And we get that decision paralysis. Someone mentioned that word paralysis earlier. It means that our perfectionism stops us from doing anything. It stops us from launching. It stops us from getting things finished. Carrie Ann mentioned it earlier in the chat about starting lots of things and not finishing them. Okay, I am going to share with you some hints and tips that I hope you can take and put into practice straight away to help you move beyond imposter syndrome. Um, Yes, Carrie-Anne's just said, totally resonates about the clients. We know there's someone we don't want to work with, but we're doing it so that we can earn some money. Absolutely. Kelly says, in that situation now. Ellen says, it stops my business from growing. I have a great idea. I get scared it will fail, so I don't do it. Then someone else does it and it's massive. Oh my God, how many times has that happened to you? Or so for those of you who've got corporate experience, you might have been in a meeting and you think, I really think I should say this. This is a really interesting idea or a really interesting question, but I won't because I'll look silly. And then you don't, and someone else does it, and you think, oh my God, and it goes down really well. It's so frustrating. A question that someone asked me that was really powerful, that changed some stuff for me, was about what if someone else did it first? So when you're scared to make a move, think about what if someone else did it first and it worked perfectly. It's a really good reminder. Thanks for popping that in the chat. Okay, here we go. Some hints and tips. Note down any of the ones that really resonate with you because I want you to commit to trying at least one of these out, let's say by the end of the month. That doesn't give you very long, but it gives you long enough to put one into place. So, first of all, recognize it. So, start to get used to recognizing when it's your imposter syndrome talking. Ah, yes, that's my imposter syndrome talking. Because as soon as you do that, you disassociate it from you. So, when I talk more deeply about the inner critic, I talk about one of the brilliant ways to get past it is to say, rather than I'm really crap at sales, say, my brain is having the thought that I am crap at sales. Can you hear the difference in that? So get used to recognizing it so that you can recognize, it's my imposter syndrome talking here. It's the story. It's my brain being protective, keeping me small and safe because it's doing its job. But it's okay. You don't need to keep me small and safe. It's all right. So when you hear that voice, take a pause and think, is this really true? Or actually, is it my imposter syndrome thing talking? Keep a wins tracker. Okay, this is gold. So every day, try and capture three things that you've done well. So whether that's compliments from clients or a really good review, or maybe you did a piece of work that you've been putting off because you were too scared to, because what if I fail at it? Maybe it's problems solved or tasks completed. Three things that you've done really well. Keep this in what I like to call, so I used to call it a smile file, but a client of mine started calling it a 70 million albums folder because of the JLo association, right? That we talked about earlier. So keep it in your 70 million albums folder because this, my friend, is evidence to show that you are doing it and you are doing it well. Keep your testimonials and your reviews somewhere visible where you can see them. You can't, well, I'll show you. Just up there, there's a notice board. On that notice board, it's full of letters from my clients, from my coachees, all thanking me for the difference that it's had through for them through working with me. I keep those because on the days when I'm feeling a bit wobbly, when on the days when I watch people doing brilliant presentations and think, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this, I look at those and I think, no, do you know what? I do make a difference and I am good. And Becca calls it the I'm not shit folder. Perfect. Call it what you will, but stick everything in there. Because this is a really good way to help you collect evidence that proves it's not real, it's your imposter syndrome. Okay. Ask people about your strengths. You can do a strengths audit and you can blame it on me. So I want you to email 10 people, people you work with, your family, your friends, and say, I was on this webinar with this woman and she's made us do this, but can you send me 3 words that describe what you think my strengths are? The reason being, you get lovely emails back with your strengths in them rather than anything negative, which is lovely. But it also begins to show you what your strengths are. Sometimes we downplay strengths because they come to us so easily. We assume that everyone can do them. We forget that actually it's a strength to us. But because it's easy, we just kind of write it off as down to luck or everyone can do that. But actually, I want you to do that. And then I want you to read and sit with what they say. Don't brush it off. Don't say, oh, well, that's just fluke, or you're just saying that because, you love me, or whatever it is. Have a look at those and start to spot the themes and use it again as evidence for what your strengths are. So when your inner critic is saying, well, you're crap at that, you can say, well, actually, I know that I'm not because here I've got some evidence. Remember your why. Do you remember I spoke about that earlier when someone put their really strong why for why they wanted to get past their imposter syndrome? Remember why you started this business. You started it for a reason, and your customers choose you. They could go elsewhere. But when you connect with your purpose, when you really remember what your why is, so for me, it's because I want everyone who I work with to come skidding into their end of days going, holy cow, what a ride, rather than I wish I'd been braver. So on the days when I'm wobbling or I don't want to pitch for business or I'm really scared about doing something, remembering that that is my why, that is my purpose for starting Quiet Hive, allows me to be brave and to do the scary things. So remember what your why is and maybe make a note of it on a post-it somewhere so that it really reminds you and prompts you. Don't compare yourself. So when you do, you're comparing apples and oranges, right? Hence the graphic. But that successful person that you're comparing yourself with has the same doubts. 70% of us, we said, are impacted by this at any one time. So it is more likely than not that the person that you're going, oh my God, they've got it made, is having similar doubts. If particular accounts trigger you or make you feel uncomfortable or make you feel rubbish, then delete them. Don't follow them. You can, if it's a friend, for example, and you want to support them by following them, you can do that, but you can remove their stuff from your feed so that it doesn't make you feel grotty. It's hard enough dealing with imposter syndrome. Why would you want to bombard yourself with more stuff that does that? I know that sounds like a really flippant one, but it's a really strong one. Loads of people I've spoken to who limit their time on social media or come off it completely, it really changes their relationship with their inner critic. Don't get stalled by perfection. So we talked about this earlier. There is a brilliant quote from a writer called Anne Lamott. She wrote a brilliant book called Bird by Bird, talking about her experience in the writing life. But she has a quote that says, give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. Excuse the language, it's hers, not mine. But give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. Why? Because you've already decided it's not going to be perfect. And it helps you move past it. Some things we don't start because we're so scared we're going to get it wrong, or it's going to be imperfect, or it's going to fail. We just don't start. So actually remove that barrier by saying, it's okay. It's going to be shit. That's fine. I'm going to deal with it. So give yourself permission to write that really awful first draft. You're welcome, Joe. I'll see you again soon. A business example. We don't launch our business because we just need to make the website first. Once I've got the website sorted, I'm going to launch the business. But you know what? You will make no sales at all and bring in no money while you're fannying about with that. If you launch it at 80% or at good enough, then it's out there and you can start to doing things. So think about what that looks like for you. Is there perfectionism that's getting in your way? Okay, so separate imposter syndrome from actual skill gaps. Sometimes we just don't know how to do something, and that is fine. That is absolutely normal. You're not supposed to be brilliant at everything. That's why accountants exist and lawyers exist and coaches exist because whoever have the skills that you might need sometimes. I don't know about any of you, but I have been really hesitant and reluctant at outsourcing stuff because I think, well, A, I should be able to do this for myself. B, it's going to cost too much money. The one thing I absolutely did do because I did not want to mess it up and get in a pickle was I've always worked with an accountant, but I've always done my own bookkeeping, for example. So I've very much learned along the way. But I tell you something, I have just got a new piece of software. I thought it's going to take me ages to figure out how to do this. So I paid someone a good amount of money, but it felt like like a reasonable amount of money because they did this piece of work that would have taken me, I kid you not, months to get my head around doing because it was new software, didn't know my way around it. She did it in a week and it is brilliant. And she's taught me how to do it as well. That feels like a really good investment because my skills weren't there. So this is not about you need to know everything. It's about ask for help. Know the bits you're good at, the bits that you're not good at. Being an entrepreneur is an opportunity to learn, right? I know that I wouldn't have had a clue how to build a website before I launched Quiet the Hive, and I had to do that myself. But acknowledge to yourself, do you know what? This isn't my zone of genius yet. I'm going to outsource it if you possibly can, or do skill swaps if your coffers don't afford that yet. See if you can do a skill swap with someone and ask to sit alongside them perhaps as they do it, so you're learning as you go. But know that you can have skill gaps. That's not imposter syndrome. That's just normal. And exactly that, Victoria. So when you pay other entrepreneurs, A, you're supporting other small businesses, which I love. And B, you are freeing up your time to do the things that you are good at, like working on your business or pitching for more business or whatever it might be. But you're freeing up your time too, as well as supporting others in the community. Okay, talk about it. So, you know that bit when I asked you right at the beginning whether you ever spoken kindly to yourself or took responsibility for things that weren't your fault when they go wrong or put your successes down to luck? And we saw how many people said, yes, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. How nice was it to know that you're not alone in thinking that? When you talk to other people, whether that's another entrepreneur, a small business owner, whether it's a friend or a partner, it can feel really nice for them when they say, yes, and I experienced that too. They will also probably remind you how brilliant you are because those wonderful friends will want to support you. And they will share their own imposter syndrome moments with you to remind you that you're not alone. A really good thing to do if some of this is really kind of resonating for you and you're thinking, I really want to do something to tackle this, is find an accountability buddy. Maybe someone in the chat, maybe someone that you've seen attend the same webinars as you or whatever, and or join a network. I am part of a couple of networks that are local to me. And my goodness me, there is something incredibly cathartic when you find someone who's on the same wavelength as you, who's struggling with the same things as you, but also able to celebrate the things, same things as you as well. Reframe your pricing. How many of us feel a bit squeaky when we talk about money and when we talk about how much we charge and when we say to our clients, that thing that you want to buy from me, yes, of course, it's this much. I have to give you the best hack that I learned about this. So, a friend of mine has a whiteboard next to her, and on that whiteboard, she has all her prices. She's a service-based business. She's excellent. And when she's on the phone to a client and the client says, "How much is that?" she can turn to the whiteboard and say, "It's this much." Because she's not saying that. The whiteboard is telling her how much it is. And she says that that trick really takes away the pressure of having to say the price because it's not her, it's on the whiteboard. So it must be true. So I love that as a tip. And the first time I upped my prices quite significantly when I was working with corporates, I'd written a figure on a piece of paper when I took this call with a client. And it was almost double what I charged my last client because I was massively undercharging. And the time for the conversation came and she said, "And how much is that?" And I told her because I read it off the paper and she went, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. That works with our budget." And I thought, oh my God, I'd been building this up into this massive thing, but she could see my value. She knew my worth. And you need to do that for yourself as well. So really reframe your pricing. Have a look and think about whether you're undercharging. Are you giving away lots to free for free? Because that doesn't pay our bills. Sometimes it is useful to do things for free. Sometimes it's great for connections. Sometimes you can do a skill swap or something, but you can't do that all the time because your business then is not a business. It's a hobby. Like I said, sometimes we have these massive financial pressures on ourselves to make these work. Your clients aren't buying your generosity and your loveliness. They're buying your expertise and your skills. And sometimes when you undercharge, actually, it can work in the other way round. So rather than making yourself attractive because you're cheaper, what people do is they look at the price and they think, "Ooh, that feels a bit low. Maybe I won't do that." I had an example of this when I ran a workshop in person and I was really struggling with what to price it. I was originally pricing it as £47, and I was told that is way, way, way too low by a business coach who I was ever so grateful because she made me add another £100 on top of it, and then she bought a ticket, which I thought was very generous. But actually, one of the people who came to that workshop said to me afterwards, "If you'd have charged lower for this, I probably wouldn't have come because I wouldn't have thought it was going to be very good." So really think about that. What messages are you putting out, and are you charging enough to make it worth doing? Celebrate your wins. I cannot emphasize this enough. You know how we talked earlier about sitting on our own in our little garden sheds, or whatever it might be, with just spiders for company and hibernating ladybirds? But it's so easy for your wins to just kind of dismiss it or put it down to luck. Take 5 minutes to celebrate, just 5 minutes. You don't have to make a big deal out of it if you don't want to, but don't just brush it off. It is not down to luck. It is down to your skill. It is down to your expertise. It is down to your experience. It is down to you. Celebrate your wins as much as you berate yourself for your losses. When you get a compliment or some feedback or a testimonial, screenshot it. Keep that email. Put it in your 70 million albums folder, please, because that is where all the evidence is for the days when you're feeling really crappy. You can take a look at that folder and go, "Okay, actually, it is okay. I am doing this." You are running a business. And you are doing so well, believe me. There are so many small businesses who don't come as far as you have. So take that and celebrate it. So I'd love to know which one of those strategies you will be trying this week. Is there anyone that really jumps out at you or think that you could really benefit from taking a moment and sitting with? Any of those that you are going to commit to, I'd really love to know. Pop them in the chat. And while you're thinking about which one it might be, oh, let's go back because some people are starting to say. So Kelly's going to find an accountability partner. Carrie Ann's going to remember her why and reframe her pricing. Tina's going to do the wins tracker. I love that, Tina. It's such a joyful thing to do. Don't get stalled by perfection. Absolutely. Remembering my why, reframe pricing. Yeah, that's a squeaky one. It can feel really uncomfortable. So I'm glad you're leaning into that one. Recognizing it and starting to deal with it. Yeah, and remember, it's always going to be there. It's just about skilling yourself up with some tips and tools like these that can help you move past it. Another one for the wins tracker. Don't get stalled by perfection again. Don't compare yourself. Absolutely. So try and think about how you're going to remind yourself of that when you sign off this and you go back to the emails and back to the meetings. Grab that workbook so that you can begin to start doing this work because it's not just about the time we've got here today, it's the time beyond it that will really matter. Please remember that imposter syndrome, that sense of being found out or not being good enough, is absolutely normal, especially for entrepreneurs. We talked about some of those reasons why earlier. It is not always the truth. Sometimes it is just your brain protecting you. It doesn't want you to take risks because it doesn't want you to expose yourself to the risk of non-survival, right? That's why it's there. But those risks are okay and manageable, and actually imagine what's on the other side of them. You are qualified to do this. You're already running your business. For goodness sakes, you're already doing it. So keep doing it. Pick some strategies and put them into place this week. And remember that that growth happens just when you're towing the edges of your comfort zone. There is the QR code if you want to grab the workbook. Just a quick reminder that it will sign you up to my newsletter, but you can absolutely grab the freebie and run and unsubscribe. That's not a problem. The unsubscribe is at the end of the email, as all of us should have at the bottom of our emails. But I'd love you to stay and connect with me further at Quiet the Hive. Um, there, that's my email address. hello@quietthehive.com. If you've got any thoughts or any questions, or you want to reach out and use me as accountability, then please feel free to do so. I would love to hear from you. And just before we get to the questions from Emma, just to say thank you so much to Small Business Saturday for inviting me to come and hang out with you for an hour today. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope that you've got something useful and practical that you can take away and put in place. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing, or maybe I'll just go back to the QR code just for a minute in case anyone didn't get it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jane. I've just put the link in the chat as well in case
Oh, fab.
anyone's in case the QR code's not working for anyone. I'm sure that it is. But yes, thank you so much. I definitely got a lot from this session. Absolutely love the wind tracker. Think I definitely need to implement that into my life. That sounds wonderful.
It's a
Um,
nice, positive thing to do.
it really is. Yeah, absolutely. Questions. If anyone's got some more, I know we've answered a lot as we've gone through, but do pop them in the Q&A or the chat, and we can ask those in just a second. Also, in case anyone would like to review our previous webinars, you can see them on our YouTube channel, which I've just put the link to in the chat. I know a few people said that they weren't quite getting our email, so I'm so sorry about that. Do have a look at the link here, and you can catch up on all of the emails that are coming through. Cool. Who's sending questions? Lots of love for you in the chat, Jane. People saying thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Wonderful. Another Jane just asked if you could pop your contact details slide back up if that's
I
okay.
can indeed. Hang on a minute. I know I've stopped sharing, so I have to go back to the sharey bit as well. But it's at, hello@quiethive.com, or you can find me at Instagram, which is at quiet_the_hive. There you go.
Fabulous. I've put your email in the chat as well for people in case it's easier for them to copy and paste.
Brilliant, of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wonderful.
I just want to say, Rachel, I'm glad it's what you needed to hear today. Thank you. Sometimes it's really hard when we feel like we're on our own, so it's really nice that it's what you needed for today. Thank you.
Oh, Kelly's just popped in as well if anyone wants to connect for accountability. I love that.
Brilliant.
Amazing. Okay, right, I'll dive into questions.
Okay.
I am confident with speaking on stage, but not when it comes to posting online. Interesting. How would you suggest that I could overcome this?
So, Ria, that really resonates with me, actually. I know that there is that piece of research, isn't it, that people quote that say that more people are scared of public speaking than they are of death, which I find fascinating. I'm sure it's to do with the eyes staring at you. But I'm the same. I'm fine on stage. Like I get nervous beforehand, but I love doing it. I get real energy from that. But when I think about posting online, I overthink it massively because I think this is probably the bit where my imposter syndrome shows up the most. I have this thing of, why would anyone want to hear that? I've got nothing of interest to say. I feel like I'm repeating the same thing again and again and again and again. But not everyone will see your content. Something like 6% of your stuff is seen by your followers. It's minuscule. So I would suggest by starting small. post a story of a cup of coffee and say, I'm having a wonderful day. How's yours going? Something that gets the interaction going. Or maybe make a list, like spend some time thinking about, okay, what questions have I had from clients or customers? Or what feedback have I had? Can I share a little bit of something around that? And then twist it around. I think sometimes we get in our own heads because we worry about what other people are going to think of us or what the negative consequences are going to be. I wonder if you can flip it around and think about how am I going to be of service? So if you aren't sharing your stuff with people, they miss out on all of that goodness. You might be depriving someone who really needs to hear that. Like we had in the chat earlier, someone really needed to hear that. If I had cancelled this out of like, I'm just too scared to do it now, I'm going to back out, that person wouldn't have benefited from being here today and hearing it. So maybe flip it around and think, how am I going to be of service to my audience, or what might they want to hear from me? I hope that helps.
I love that. I think as well, like often we wait, or I personally try and wait to post until something big has happened. And then I'll spend way too long refining it that it doesn't actually sound like me, it doesn't sound authentic, and then it's not actually a very good post.
Yeah,
Whereas if I'd done like you say, like, oh, morning coffee or whatever it is, that's yeah, that's a good place to start.
exactly. It takes the pressure off. Good.
Yeah, and once you've done one, it's easier and
Yeah. Jane's just said, I need a new podcast to listen to. So I'm just going to say, I have one. And in between, so I have guests, and the ones in between, I do a mini series called Awaken Your Life, and some of the content in that might be really interesting for you. So I hope that helps.
saying fabulous. Next question is, if you have been previously put down, how would you suggest you overcome this?
This is really hard, right? Because we build so much of our own sense of who we are from the narratives and stories we are given by other people. So, for example, uh, long story short, but my art teacher told me I couldn't draw, and when I tried, he told me I was cheating, even though I spent time, put lots of effort in. So my story for a long, long time was I am not artistic, I can't do it. And actually, that was a story from one person who didn't really know me or appreciate the effort I'd gone to. And so I make an effort to go to things like art classes because I want to prove to myself that it doesn't matter if I can't draw. Like, I can't copy from life, but I can create things. So there's something about remembering that the feedback we get often says as much about the other person. It is offered to you. You don't have to accept it. And also, it's that thing of we remember the bad stuff. But I can guarantee you that bad experience you've had, I bet you've had loads and loads of compliments and great feedback. It's about keeping that 70 million albums folder close to you so you can check in when you do get a wobbly message.
Absolutely. Love that. If you know that there is something else that you would like to do, but you're not sure what it is, or you're not sure what that thing is, or you do know what it is, but you're scared to start, how do you get started? What will take the leap of faith? Any advice there, Jane?
Start small, tiny, tiny, tiny. And then when you think you've made it really tiny, make it even smaller. So I do something every Sunday called Three Things Sunday over on my Instagram, where I invite people to come and put three tiny intentions for their week. Say your goal is, I want to write a book. That feels massive and overwhelming. But if you change that into three tiny goals, which are, I'm going to mess around with what the title might be for my book, or I know someone who's self-published, I'm going to reach out and see if she'd be happy to have a conversation. Not even have the conversation, just drop her an email and see if she'd happy to do that. And then the other thing is I might read a book that is similar to something that I would like to read. So suddenly those three things feel very achievable, much more so than write a book. But if you do 52 lots of those three tiny things, if you say, I'm going to write 200 words every week to get me closer to my book, it may not feel like a lot, but it adds up. So to start really, really small, because then you won't scare yourself out of doing it. On
Mm,
my website, actually, there's a download called Beating Procrastination, and it's got some tips for helping you move forward past some of those things. So grab that if that's useful.
fab. And you obviously you spend a lot of time helping other people, but where do you go for your support, for your inspiration? Or does it just come from you?
That's a really lovely question. I'm very lucky that I have a really brilliant, lovely, supportive group of friends. And I can prove that by the fact that one of them is on this call. So Carrie Ann and I know each other in real life. She's one of my best mates. She's celebrating my 50th with me next weekend. Um, so she is a really valuable source of support, as are other friends. I also have a group of female business owners who I really trust and admire and respect that I also reach out to as well. And also people who are a bit further away. So, like, my partner is great. He is my biggest cheerleader, even when I'm wobbling. He's like, "You're amazing. You can do this." I would surround yourself with the people who give the energy you need rather than who suck it out of you. So that's what I try and do is surround myself with other positive, wonderful people, much like yourself, Emma.
So kind of you. Thank you so much. Ariane's just said in the chat that you are her inspiration always,
Oh,
which I love that. I'm sure the support goes both ways between you two. That is wonderful. Another question has just come in actually to the chat from Ria, which is amazing. She met with a Dragon's Den investor recently, and when she heard what I guess the dragon did, she was shocked. Um, Oh, yeah. Would you expand a little bit there? I'm so sorry. I might be misunderstanding what you mean. But you've not posted a photo on socials. Are you feeling nervous to share that you were on Dragon's Den? Do let us know in the Q&A or the chat what you would like. Amazing though that you're on Dragon's Den. That's phenomenal. An achievement in itself for sure.
oh, here we go. So she was shocked to find that Ria has imposter syndrome. I think that's it. I haven't even posted
Hi.
a picture together on socials. Yes, just do it. Do it and tag her in and say it was so lovely to meet you. You don't have to say anything groundbreaking. You don't have to say I'm amazing because I met them. You could just say I'm so grateful for the time they took to spend a couple of minutes talking to me and it was a really lovely experience. Or don't post it at all. That's fine too. But take away the fact that they were impressed with you because it sounds like they were.
And have it on your quick wins. Big win, I feel that one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous. We are running a little bit out of time. So any last burning questions, do pop them in the Q&A and the chat. If we don't manage to get through them today, do drop Jane an email. Her email's on the screen there. hello@quietthehive.com.
Yeah.
Another message come in. Everyone's saying happy birthday to you, Jane.
Thank you for my birthday. Thank you. Think of me on the 8th. It's an excuse to have some fizz of some sort or a mocktail, whatever you fancy, but you have my permission to raise a glass if you need an excuse to do so on a Monday.
Love it. Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining today, for all the questions, all the engagement in the chat. I feel like this has been really uplifting, and I'm sure everyone's going to float off the rest of the day feeling really super inspired, and hopefully got some plans of action for the rest of the week. Thank you so much for joining. We'll be here Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. in the run up to the Small Business Saturday tour. Small Business Saturday on the 6th of December, which is really close now. So do catch us for the last few sessions. If you do attend 10 or more, we will send you a Christmas gift from us in time for Christmas as well. Jane, any final words before you wrap up?
Just a massive thank you. And remember, you're not alone. Reach out to others, share your experience, ask for help and support. It is not unusual, as Tom Jones would say. I can't think of a better way than to finish by quoting Tom Jones.
Love it. Amazing. Great. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.